Now, more than ever, we need to focus on stories of strength, courage, and unity. Welcome to COVID Talks, a series dedicated to promoting positive conversations during uncertain times.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 13th episode of COVID Talks, Positive Conversations During Uncertain Times. My name is Anthony Rapp of PR Decision LLC. I'll be your host for the evening. So for those of you watching us live, we thank you. If you do us a favor, go to the bottom of this post, click the share button, and share it on your personal page so that we can spread the word even further. For those of you tuning in on the podcast, we thank you for listening and thank you for downloading. Tonight, we have a great show. We have my friend and the Assemblyman Mike Reilly with us today to give us a sort of state of the borough as to what's going on, what's transpiring both in government and here on the borough in general, with relating to business, relating to just the way in which constituents are able to interact with and maintain contact with elected public officials. So we're going to bring him up in about 2 or 3 minutes. But first, we're going to go into our headlines of the day. And the first headline of the day of positive news is coming from Tottenville High School. So the high school basketball team over at Tottenville High School took it upon themselves, because obviously their season has been canceled, to create a positive video to promote a message of staying at home. So we're going to pull up that video. Let's see if we can get that up. Great work by the Tottenville basketball team. Very nice, very well done with the intricate cuts and copies with the video editing. So next up, what happens when you bring two of Staten Island's greatest things and put them together? You get Flagship Brewery's hard seltzer. So Flagship Brewery, Staten Island's own, has partnered with, of course, Staten Island's world-famous Ralph's Ices, and they are releasing a hard seltzer line for the adults. So now when you walk up to the window, you can get a lemon ice for your kid and a six-pack for mom and dad. Great work. We're excited. Look for that release this summer. And last up in our news section. So there's been a lot of controversy about the small loans and the businesses that are applying for these small loans, because apparently the money ran out, and the money was slated for small businesses to use so that they are able to pay their workers and keep their doors open, et cetera, et cetera. Turns out that Shake Shack, a multi-million-dollar company, actually applied for and got a $10 million loan from the government. And the government said yesterday that they ran out of money, meaning that small businesses can't get it. So what Shake Shack did, they've returned their $10 million PPE loan. So they said, no, we understand that there are small businesses that need it a lot more than we do. In my mind, not a dig at Shake Shack, but I am a PR professional and marketing guy. This was great marketing on behalf of Shake Shack, because I would assume that they never intended on taking it, but they wanted to look like heroes. So great job. It worked, because every major media outlet is reporting the fact that they're giving the money back. So support them anyway, but great work and great job to their marketing and to their PR team. All right. So tonight, as I said, we have our guest with us, Assemblyman Mike Reilly. Before we bring him up, just want to give you two quick PSAs, and that is, of course, how to stay in contact with and watch our show. So we're at COVID Talk on Facebook. Check the website out, covidtalks.com. That's where you're going to find all of our previous episodes, as well as all of our upcoming episodes. Subscribe to us on YouTube at COVID Talks, and you can download this podcast on iTunes or Spotify. You're interested in being a guest speaker, or you have an idea or a topic you'd like to hear about. And I know Vito Canena, I'm sure he's on there. I haven't checked the live feed, but Vito every day sends us some great guests who are actually working on getting on the show. If you have a topic or would like to be a guest, just shoot us an email at info@prcision.com, and we'll get to it. We'll sift through it and get you on. Speaking of upcoming guests, tomorrow night we welcome Benny Umbra from Pata and Lamarca, Certified Public Accountant Service here on Staten Island. He's going to be talking about all of the issues related to taxes, business taxes, small business taxes, personal taxes, etc., and what the pushback means, because the new deadline is now in July. What do you need to be ready? How do you be prepared? And he'll go in depth tomorrow night talking about that. And our last PSA is tomorrow night. Councilman Borelli is going to be presenting a live stream, which will be at 8 p.m., of course, after you've already watched this episode of COVID Talks tomorrow. But he's going to have Mr. Brendan Lantry, attorney at law, as well as Philip Guarneri, CEO of Empire State Bank. And they're going to be talking about what we just mentioned, that PPE program, what businesses need to know, what individuals need to know, how they can apply for and get that money. And that'll be, again, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. All right. So without further ado, right now we're going to bring up a former member of the U.S. Army Reserve, former lieutenant with the NYPD, past president of the Community Education Council 31, and our current assemblyman of the 62nd District. We have with us Mike Reilly. Mike, what's up, brother?
Hey, thanks for having me. I love these episodes that you're putting out. That was a great some great PSAs, and especially the Tottenville high school basketball team. That was excellent. So I'm glad to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
Awesome. We're looking forward to having you. So before we get in depth with our assemblyman, we're going to play nice here. So the assemblyman is not here to promote a political agenda. The assemblyman has taken time out of his day to speak directly with us, and afterwards, anyone who's going to download this or watch it or listen later on, to just share unbiased information about what he sees, what's going on, and how basically an elected official is able to help or facilitate during these times. So we will have a section later where you can type your comments in and we will answer your questions. If we get any stupid comments, it's plain and simple. We're not going to answer them. So again, with that, we're going to just ask Mike a basic question. So I know you very well. You're a great guy, well known in the community. But for those who are watching and listening who may not know you, Mike, give us your background, pre-politics. I mean, you got a very storied history. Tell us where it began and how you got involved.
Well, I began. I joined the United States Army Reserves when I was 19 years old, back in 1992. I was going to John Jay College, studying legal studies, and I wanted to become a police officer. So after I got out of basic training in the Army, I got hired by the police department, by the NYPD, in September of 1993. I served in the NYPD until 2006. I got hurt in the line of duty and had to retire. So I was a sergeant in the 6-7 precinct in East Flatbush, Brooklyn. I started out as a police officer in Midtown North in Manhattan, and then I retired from the 90th precinct as a lieutenant in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. After I retired, I felt like I still wanted to give back, so I started volunteering at my kid's school. And how I volunteered was I was doing a stop and drop program where I would take the kids out of the car so parents didn't have to double park, alleviate traffic, improve some safety around the school. But I took it to another level. I started dressing up in costumes for the kids. It turned into, when I first started it, I told the principal that I would help out for the first 2 weeks. 10 years later, I was still doing
never
it.
let you go.
So it was pretty, I enjoyed it. It was nice to put a smile on their face, and I had a good time doing it. And then I got elected to the Community Education Council, CEC 31, which is the public school board for Staten Island. I served on there from 2009 until 2018 when I got elected to the Assembly. And now I'm carrying on that public service in the state legislature.
Cool. So I want to pull back for 1 second because I'm not going to let you get out of this interview without talking about you being sort of the first, at least on Staten Island, the first person who was rapid fire disseminating information via social media every 20 minutes, whether it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock in the morning. People began to look for you on social media. This was prior to public office. They would look to you on social media almost like it was the Bible. It was like, well, if Mike Reilly didn't say it, I don't believe it, because you were you were on top of, so obviously it's a great public service, but what made you do that? And to the extent that, you really are, you were, and you still are a repository for information that people seek out. I know people in my own life who will check out your feed and then go to SI Live afterwards because they want to see if you said it first. So Talk about how that started and why you did that.
It's amazing what social media does and the effect it can have, especially if you use it for a positive thing. And that's what my goal is all the time, is to be positive on there and try and share the information. How it all started, it's pretty funny. My high school reunion, my 20th high school reunion was coming up, and people that I went to high school with asked me to join Facebook to help them put together the anniversary and the reunion party. So this was back in 2009 into 2010, and after we put together the reunion and everything, I had this Facebook, and I'm like, what can I do with this? And one day I took my wife to the doctor's office, and she was in the doctor's and in the office, and I was waiting outside, and then all of a sudden there was a car accident right in front of me. So I posted and said, traffic alert, avoid this area. There's a car accident. And that's truly how it started.
And that was it.
Yeah. And then after Superstorm Sandy, just coordinating, letting people know where resources were available, where we can coordinate donations, with the elected officials, of course, at the time, Councilman Ignazio, Councilman Otto at the time. There was so much going on that all I was trying to do was help coordinate with other volunteers in the community. And that really, I think, pushed the volume that I had on my page. And, it's just been, right now it's amazing. I hit you hit that 5,000 friends request and limit on your page, and then you can have a follow button. Right now, I have about 30,000 people on my personal page, and then of course you have my other political pages. But I think I never try and say that that makes me something special. It's really not. All I am is, like you said, I'm a repository for information, and I try and share for our community to help each other. Just recently, just a short time ago, I posted about warning people to lock their cars because we have a bunch of crews that are coming around the South Shore car hopping, taking things from unlocked cars. And just yesterday we had 2 vehicles stolen because people left their keys in the car, and the 122 precinct made an arrest on that. So please, once again, lock your cars. That's something that I'm always putting out there.
So public service from the NYPD, public service of your own accord through social media and constantly keeping everyone informed. So where does politics fit in? I know service, but what made you decide one day, you know what, I'm gonna run for an office? I mean, it's a big decision. It's not something that's done lightly, and you jumped in and took it by the reins and won.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. If you told me in 2006, when I retired from the police department, that I would go on to be volunteering at my kid's school, be a school board president, and then be elected to the state assembly, I would have told you were nuts. It was never really anything that I thought would happen. It wasn't a plan that I had in place. And I said, one day I'm going to run for elected office. I think it's all about just having that commitment to my community. And this was the next step into how I can help the community. Sometimes there are some polarizing things in the political world where we're not going to see eye to eye on things. But my goal is always to listen and to hear from our community members, and me to represent them the best way I can. And I think that's really, where I got the bug to eventually run was just by being a member of the school board, the Community Education Council, and taking my kids up to Albany on Education Lobby Day. I got to go into the state assembly, I got to go into the state Senate chambers and see the political process, and it was really a rewarding feeling. If you told me 10 years later that I would be sitting in that chair, I would have told you, no way. But every day that I hold this position, I thank the community for entrusting me.
So that's the 30,000 people who are following you. They helped a little, right? I mean, come on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the following that helped put me into the position I'm in now is truly remarkable. It goes to show you that if you really invest in helping your community, the reward is there's no bounds.
So let's talk a little bit about your office and your role. So right now, obviously everything is closed, but I know that your office is still working hard. So how are you dealing with day-to-day constituent issues, and what's a great way or the best way for people who need to reach out to you to get in touch with you?
Well, the best way is through email. My official email is reilly@nyassembly.gov. And of course, through social media, you have my Mike Reilly page, which is my official political page. You have my Michael Reilly, my personal page on Facebook. Please send messages. Just let us know what we can do. I mean, I'm already flooded with so many messages and trying to get the word out to people to help them. One of the things that we're working on every day is the issue with unemployment benefits. I can't tell you how many messages I have gotten requesting assistance. My team is working remotely. I have Peter Ginta, who is my chief of staff. I have Denise, Laura, Mike. They're all working hard. Vic, they're all working hard. And what we're doing is we're trying to send those messages of assistance that are required to the governor's office, to any other state and city agency that can help any of our constituents. And that's what we are. We're a vehicle here trying to get them the right answers and to alleviate all the concerns that they have. It is an uphill battle. It's very difficult, but we're working hard, and we're going to continue to work hard.
So tell me some of the biggest challenges. I know you and I spoke earlier, but pick any one of them because they're all valid. What's the biggest challenge that you see right now as an elected official that's happening right now? There's a ton of problems, but you mentioned something in particular before about the incontinuity between city and state levels. Could you expound upon that? What were we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, that's, let's take, for instance, the state testing policy for COVID and the city testing policy. It took so long and so many phone calls and bringing this up to the governor's team and to the city and to the mayor's team that there was a different policy in how testing was going to take place. We had the city policy that was saying that only those hospitalized were going to get tested. And then you had the state policy, which was designated that if you had symptoms and you had close contact with someone, so there just was no continuity. You had people going, trying to call the state number, waiting weeks to get testing. So that's the biggest hurdle, I think, that we have being local representatives, is that we're getting two different messages sometimes from the state and from the city. And you see it, our constituents see it too, just by watching the news. You see the mayor come on and say that school's going to be closed the rest of the school year. And then you have the governor come on and say, no, that's not going to happen.
You can't do that.
Think about what that does to local elected officials as well, because then your constituents say, well, what's the answer? And sometimes we got to be honest and say, we don't know. We got to wait until they decide they're done with their little feud. But I'm hoping that they get that little thing out of the way. The little sometimes those egos get in the way, and the who can determine what. I think we all need to mesh a little better, and hopefully that it seems to be getting a little better. But that's day to day.
And now, I mean, as a regular constituent, a regular person, I hear all the time that there's a lot of issues with the unemployment. And then when you and I spoke, you as an elected official told me a story about having issues. So right now, people are filing, but what was your experience? You had mentioned to me, and why do you think it's so screwed up? I mean,
yeah, I mean, listen, I'm getting calls every day about people who have filed and haven't gotten a phone call in 4 days. In 4 weeks. They got a phone call and they were asking for specific information, and we were worried that it was a scam. There was no real definition of what they were going to ask. And I could speak firsthand about this because my son has been trying to get his unemployment benefits for 4 weeks now, and it's totally backlogged. Today, we just found out that they changed the application process for unemployment insurance benefits. So now we don't know if that's going to delay things further. Hopefully not. But people have been sending me and my team requests for help with unemployment, and we are reaching out to the governor's office and to those at the Department of Labor. I get it that there's so many people that applied, and you're talking hundreds of thousands of people all at once for a system that was only able to handle probably 50,000 a week. They got 500,000 in a week. So yes, do I expect it to have some glitches? Yes, but it's time that we really have to put this together and really get these people on a path to sustainability, because they have no funds coming in, and this is really hurting them.
And do you see that coming to fruition, or do you see it still going to be, somewhat segmented and they're still getting their act together, or do you see something positive coming down the pike?
The governor, during the governor's briefing today, his secretary actually mentioned that they were able to clear a lot of the claims that were in the pipeline. So I'm confident that we're going to get better. The sad part is that, for us getting better at it, we're still leaving some people short, and we really need to expedite that. And with this new change, I'm optimistic that we will, with this new change in the form, I'm optimistic we will get better, and it will get quicker, and people will get their funds. But until everybody is on the path to having some sustainability during this crisis, then we can't stop trying.
And talking about sustainability and shifting gears just a little bit. So there's been articles in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, the pundits are talking about it all the time. We are in an election year. I mean, it is what it is. And they're talking about different ways in which to conduct voting, the possibility of virtual ballots, the possibility of ballots by mail. Do you think any of these can work? Do you think any of them make sense? And would you be an advocate of any of it, or do you just think by that time we'll be out of the muck and we'll be able to go to the ballots the way we should?
I think what's going to be a telltale sign is the upcoming primary election. It's at a smaller scale than the November election. So we'll see, I think, what's going to happen with that. I'm a little concerned about having at the mail-in voting and the process that's going to happen with it, because it's unknown territory. So we really don't know what to expect. We were just getting into a groove of the rollout of early voting, and I had some major concerns with that I spoke about using schools. I thought that it really was a safety concern with schools, and it really impacted the day-to-day operations of a school. But we're looking at something totally different, where we could just have someone maybe sign on and onto a computer and vote. But we're hearing absentee voting, which is through a write-in form that you mail in. I'm sure we're going to see more coming from the New York City Board of Elections and the state Board of Elections. We'll see more guidance on that. But these are some trying times, and I think the integrity of the election is going to be on everybody's mind. And I wish I could foreshadow or foresee what's going to happen, but nobody can really. So we all have to work to get this to work, to get on the same page to make this work.
At its most basic level, though, and I think you'd agree with me, it is a wake-up call for the entire system, because at the end of this, something positive has to happen. They have to invent, with the way technology is and the way we can do everything, the election system is so antiquated, it's almost laughable, right? So someone somewhere has to be able to, in this time of crisis, develop something that even if we can't use it in this November, we should be able to use it in the future. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping to be able to go to the ballots the regular way, but at some point, because of this, a company, a new technology, an app, a finger scanner, whatever we could do, I hope that we do have something like that in the future, because I think it would be a benefit regardless of crisis or not.
I agree with you. I mean, I think there are some things that we can do to improve the process. This, like you said, should be a wake up call, and hopefully somebody's listening to you.
I know Vito Canetta is. Vito's on there. Vito, how are you? So let's shift a little from the political hat. Although no, actually no. Before we shift from the political hat, I'm going to ask you the one tough politics question. I told you to ask you one tough one. Give me or our viewers and our listeners a 30,000-foot state of the borough from your opinion. And again, only your opinion. How do you feel we're doing from a standpoint of elected public officials all the way down to the constituents and the businesses? As a looking at it from above, how do you feel we as a borough, Staten Island, during this crisis specifically? How are we doing? How are we faring?
I got to tell you, being a part of being a new elected official and working with my colleagues who have been involved in elected office for a lot longer than me, I have to tell you, Staten Island definitely has a uniqueness about it. And we, with spearheading it with Borough President Jimmy Otto, we have a text thread that we are on, all of us in elected office on Staten Island, and we speak daily through that text and through our conference calls, discussing some of the needs and the issues that we see required. Some of the things that we've discussed have really made had some really significant impact. We're focusing on the nursing homes led by the borough president, which we all fully supported and try to advocate the best we can at the city and the state level. The PPEs for our hospitals. These are all things that our elected officials on Staten Island have all worked together to accomplish. And it's great to see, because we put aside any political affiliation that we may have. We put it aside to make sure that we act as one voice. And that's very important when you're trying to get the resources for those first responders, for those healthcare workers, for those transportation workers. That's what our goal is. It's to help the best we can and to help our community. When you trickle that down to our restaurants, right? We have partnered with the chamber, with the Staten Island Chamber, to actually get food to our healthcare workers through fun.
Are you there? Uh-oh.
Did I lose you?
There you are.
Did I lose you?
No, go ahead. Finish your thought. You were talking about the chamber program.
Did I lost you? All
No,
right.
you're there.
So now, we have the restaurants sending food to our healthcare workers, and it's all through donations from our businesses, from our elected officials like Borough President James Otto. And it's a great thing because we're keeping those restaurants in business. We also have the thing that Councilman Joe Borelli put out, right? Trying to advocate people to order in and order from our restaurants. And we've been sharing that as well. And I've been ordering, and I'm trying to highlight that these restaurants are open. The community is coming together because they're ordering and keeping those restaurants in business, keeping those employees in business. And it's really, I think, showing that we are a small community. Regardless of being 480,000 people, we still have that small town feel. And, are there going to be some issues where some people aren't doing the right thing? Yes, it is. But it's up to us that are doing the right thing to set the example. and hopefully others will lead in that direction as well.
And that was important because, I mean, again, as an outsider looking in, I felt that, again, we all know this is not a political, ethnic, religious, this is a human tragedy, right? This is an attack on humanity. And it seems, at least in my opinion, from the outside looking in, that everyone on Staten Island involved in politics is exactly doing what you said. There are no lines being drawn in the sand between parties. Everyone's working together, and that's really what we need, and that's important. Do you think that that's happening at the state level, or you think it's only here on the island?
You know, like I said, Staten Island is unique, and we're hoping. I can only hope for the other areas in New York City and New York State that their elected officials are doing the same. Being that we are a smaller community and that we have the least amount of electeds in one area, maybe that's why we can work better together. But I think historically, it's from what I've seen, whenever there is any type of crisis or something that we need to focus on, all our electeds have always done that on Staten Island. I think that you will see this in other areas, but it may not be as publicized. And it depends on how many of those elected officials really have a profile on social media, so they can get it out there. Does their local newspapers talk about it? So unless people hear it, they don't know that it's happening.
And I agree. And before we move into our COVID hero of the day, I want to step back from take the politics hat off. So talk to us about education. So you have a storied history in education, and right now, schools across the borough, Catholic, public, every type of education, they're struggling because they're not able to teach their kids, right? And they're learning new technologies, and the teachers are teaching at home. And in some cases, mom is a teacher and mom has to be a mom to her kids at home. So what do you think, how do you think it's rolling out? Just from your past experience. And obviously I know you're not an expert. I'm just asking because you know so much about the state of education. You've been involved with education so long. How do you see this playing out?
Well, first, I want to commend all the educators for all the work that they're doing and all the effort that they're putting forward. I got to tell you, I see it firsthand with my own daughters who are still in school. And my daughter, Emma, who's a 7th grader in IS7, and my daughter, Kate, who's a 10th grader at New Dorp High School. They're doing their work. They're getting their work every day. And thanks to their teachers for putting that out there on their Google Classroom and actually doing this so quickly, right? So think about it. 1.1 million students in New York City went to virtual learning in a matter of 2 weeks. That is just tremendous. And yes, there are shortfalls because we know that not everybody had technology. And I think that is where some of the disconnect came in, where we weren't able to allocate those resources for technology quickly enough in some areas. But those that were able to get online, they put those lesson plans together. They worked through what was supposed to be their spring break. Right. They really they heard the bell, right? When that bell rang, they got in there and they stepped up. I got to tell you, one of the things that I go for a walk just about every day, trying to get out to get some exercise and to clear my head. The other day I was walking and I saw a couple of my teacher friends from PS 55 when my kids went to school, and there they are, social distancing, visiting their students.
Wow.
Just to say hello and keep them motivated and keep them inspired. That's dedication. That's truly remarkable that we have teachers from all over the place. Not only PS 55, you have them in the Catholic schools, you have them in the private schools, you have them in the other public schools throughout Staten Island. They're doing these little caravans going around to students during their birthdays just to motivate them. That's real dedication, right? I had the fortunate opportunity of partnering with PS 56 here in Staten Island to do a video on the census 2020, why it's important. there was a great opportunity, and I really enjoyed it. I did a YouTube video. We edited it. We put some things in there to help highlight why the census was important, what kind of resources our communities rely on because of that data, and it was incorporated into the lesson. And right after the lesson, families were asked to go online. They provided a link, and they filled out their census. That's a great interactive lesson plan, and those are happening every day here. And that's the real work that our teachers are doing. So I thank them tremendously.
Yeah, definitely shout out to the teachers because they're doing a great job. Being home and having, my little guy is 3 months old, so I don't have that experience yet, but I know from friends, family, and others, and family members who are teachers. My sister's a teacher. You hear all these stories. Teachers are doing the best that they can, and you know what? At the end of the day, the kids are still getting their education, and the teachers need to be commended. So hats off to all you educators out there. All right. So before we open up the comment section, and I am reading them. So Mas, I did see your comment. Mike Bloomfield, I do love you. Don't worry about it. And Vito Canana, you're still the best fan we have. I want to just bring up the COVID hero of the day. So what we'll do is we'll go to our hero, Mike, and then we'll bring you back for a couple more questions, and then we will get you out of here. So each night, as you know, we host and elect a COVID hero of the day. So today's COVID hero of the day, actually two of them, Anthony and Gabriella Girardi. So 11-year-old Anthony and 8-year-old Gabriella Girardi live in Staten Island, live in Tottenville. Their father, who is a good friend of mine, but is also a prominent business owner, one of the partners of Partners in Sound here on Staten Island, recently was infected with the coronavirus. Mr. Girardi was in the hospital for a week, came out, went back, came out, went back, but he did battle and he did struggle with the virus. And I am happy to report that he is 100% corona-free. He is home. He is doing well. Matter of fact, I was on the phone with him today, doing very well. So nothing to worry about there. But the real heroes are his kids. So this is a picture of his driveway where his kids drew with chalk to thank the people at Staten Island University Hospital who helped their father battle and overcome the virus and come home. So Anthony and Gabriella Girardi, we salute you. We thank you for being such great little citizens of Staten Island, and we thank you for having such a big heart to thank the first responders at Staten Island University Hospital. And once again, if you're interested in being a guest on our show or you have a topic you'd like to hear, send us an email at info@prcision.com. We'd love to look for it, love to review it, love to get you on. And once again, tomorrow night, we'll be fortunate enough to have Benny Umbra. He'll be talking to us about all things related to tax law and small business. He'll be on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And with that, we're going to go back to Mike. All right. And let's see. So now we're going to go into the comment section, and I'm going to just pick some out. So, Mike, you have the ability to look in there too. So let's see. I know one of the comments that came in prior to the live feed actually was a good question. I don't know if you have the exact answer, but we all know the governor came out with the law of requiring masks to be worn. So I think one of the questions that was posted on the video link was, is it being enforced? Is it actually a law? And are there repercussions? Which is a valid point.
It's basically urging everyone to wear a mask or a face covering over their mouth and their nose. If they're out in public and they're not able to social distance, there are no fines. The governor even said that. He said that basically it's a guidance asking people to cooperate and wear that mask, especially if they are on New York City public transit, if they're in vehicle for hire like Uber or Lyft, that the driver has to wear it and the passengers. So I mean, they're being strongly encouraged to. I know that in New York City, right, the governor, the mayor actually has ask people to send text messages to 311 if people aren't complying with social distancing. But I don't think there's any fines, and it's a very difficult thing to enforce.
Okay. So I had something up here that was good, and then my fat fingers pressed the wrong button. So here we go. Jen Sakari, shout out to Jen. How are you? So Jen has a question. I don't know if you can answer it, but it's a valid question. When do you think children's sports and activities will be able to come back? I mean, obviously you can't predict the future, but internally, are there anything even being discussed as to when, I guess that would go with schools opening again, right?
Yeah, I think. I mean, if you go by what Mayor De Blasio said, he's already indicated that large gatherings all the way out to June will not happen. So I've been getting those questions every day. People asking me, "What do you think about this happening?" Graduations, even. We
Right.
just don't know. We just don't know. And I think day by day, we'll hear more. I think, May 15th. I think just before we get to May 15th, we're going to hear more from the governor and the mayor
Right.
to see how long that actually may go on. But right now, it doesn't look promising.
So I'm going to take a biased question, and this is from my sister, Mary Rapp. Shout out to my sister. So I don't know if you know the answer, but you have more knowledge than I do. So do you know if and when and how are our healthcare workers being tested? So the guys and gals on the front lines, are they getting tested? Do they have a different protocol? Because they're in there every day. So how do you even test?
Yeah, so believe it or not, that's one of the things that collectively all the elected officials on Staten Island have been pushing. We've been pushing since testing started that we needed to have our first responders and our healthcare workers prioritized for testing. We've been successful in making that happen on the state testing site.
Right.
They are priority to testing. The issue becomes as soon as they know that they have to be tested, whether they have had contact with someone who's confirmed to have it, if they have symptoms, they have to notify the state number and get an appointment. That's the only caveat, that you need an appointment. Some urgent cares throughout Staten Island are also prioritizing our first responders and our healthcare workers. So that's the best answer that I can offer at this time.
And this was not on the news feed. This is just a question. So the mayor made the big announcement that the city is going to be producing 50,000 kits a week, and everyone went yes, right? And he got his headline. He got what he wanted. But to me, I'm on the lowest level of the totem pole. What does that mean for the average person? So the city's going to produce 50,000 tests a week, and they're going to increase it incrementally. Does that mean it'll eventually trickle down into the hands of someone like myself to just test and be sure? Or do you think that all goes immediately to hospitals? Or because I've heard talks of, let's see if we can test everyone, and then everyone from the bottom up. And even if it's the bottom, regular guy like me, if I'm okay, I could go back to work, or vice versa, or something like that. Does that make sense? Is that something you hear?
Well, that was one of the things that we wanted to prioritize, because one of the things that I mentioned to the governor's office quite often when we were having those little contradictory city and state protocols on testing was I wanted them to test first responders, because if they came back negative, then we didn't have to lose them for 14 days on the front line. And when we didn't test them, or we were waiting too long to test them, they were sidelined. So we were losing out on someone who may have been feeling better and was not COVID positive and could have returned to work. But because we were precautionary isolating, we couldn't send them back. And that's going to be the same issue moving forward with this increase in testing. We have to make sure that the priority of who we're testing when we're testing gets done. I want everybody to understand that just because you have symptoms doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get tested. And I get it. Everybody wants to make sure, know what they have. But if your symptoms aren't too severe and you can handle it, you just stay home and isolate. And yes, that 14 days that you have to stay home. But I know everybody wants that peace of mind about taking the test and seeing if they were positive. But the issue becomes, are there enough tests? And I think the priority for those with underlying conditions and those first responders and healthcare workers are a good priority, because like I said, we want to make sure that frontline worker is able to return and help others if they're not positive. So I think that's the focus that we have to stay with.
All right. So we do have we're running out of time. I don't want to keep you too long. We did have some great questions, Mike. I know you're busy, and I do appreciate you being with us. I thank everyone for watching. Those listening on the podcast, thank you. Again, this will be available for download at the YouTube channel. It'll be on the website, COVID Talks, and available on iTunes and Spotify. So, Mike, I'm going to ask you to stay in the green room for a minute. I'm going to do the quick outro, and then I'll be right back with you. All right? Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Anthony.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us for our 13th episode of COVID Talks, Positive Conversations During Uncertain Times. I'd like to thank our guest, Assemblyman Mike Reilly, for being here with us and sharing some important information. We encourage you to tune in tomorrow night at 7 when we have our special guest, Mr. Benny Umbra from Potter and La Marca. And with that, I wish everybody a good night. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.